Hello, everyone, and welcome to this national edition of the Armstrong Williams Show. I must tell you, it has just been gut-wrenching following, during, and afterwards the devastation of the hurricanes and the tornadoes, whether it was Milton or Helene. And it's just been so moved by this. We've packaged goods. I mean, simple things like razors, shaving cream, lotions, deodorant, Q-tips, bandages, lotions, just simple things that we take for granted. And for so long, I've asked Aaron, please find someone on the ground that could talk about what is happening, neglect what they witness, what we can do as everyday Americans to help people in need. Because remember, people are still recovering from Katrina, and that was years ago. And the people in these devastated areas, whether it's Asheville, Nashville, Florida, other parts of North Carolina, they will suffer for a long time. So it's so wonderful that Townsend of Top Tier Fabrication, who turned his devastated shop into a community lifeline, is joining us today. Brother, welcome to the show today, and thank you so much for joining us, and God bless you for what you have done and what you continue to do.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I'm honored to be on your show.
You know, how has the devastation of this hurricane, talk about the real impact that the media doesn't cover, the little things that is often neglected, and that what you had to do when you realized that you could not wait on others. You decided, I'm going to turn right where I am and a lifeline for people that are facing just absolute desperation.
So immediately, the first thing that I noticed is that all over the news and the media, they were saying that FEMA was going to be here to help. And, it took FEMA and the National Guard a good 4 or 5 days to get here. The first people to respond were, groups like myself. There was even people from out of town, out of state that were coming up. It was just the immediate response was trees. First off, you just couldn't get anywhere. So it started out as cutting yourself out of your house, with your own chainsaw. And if you ain't got one, just waiting on somebody to get there. But really that was the first response. The biggest thing that's not really being shown on media right now, there's a lot of people who are still stuck in their homes. There's a lot of people without driveways and roads, and it's taken a while to get the DOT there to clean that up, which understandably it's devastation like this doesn't occur in this area. So nobody was prepared.
How are they surviving without anybody having access to them, Ty?
So I'm glad you asked that. There's been a lot of people like myself, and this not a glorification to me. This is glorification. It's just glorification to God and what He does. But people like myself, we're in the woods in Western North Carolina. There's a lot of us with four-wheelers and dirt bikes and side-by-sides. A lot of us have excavators and skid steers. We have been pushing our way through the turmoil and through the landslides to get to people. It's all been, word of mouth. Hey, Grandma Johnson's stuck in our house, so we're literally just, okay, well, what's Grandma Johnson's address? And we'll load up 4 or 5 trucks with supplies, water, food, medical stuff, gasoline, generators, chainsaws, and we go there to wherever that address is. And it doesn't matter if there's trees down. It doesn't matter if there's power lines down. We're getting to whoever that person is that's stuck.
What is it like when you finally reached the destination and the people on the other side who are just desperate for help recognize there's human being, there are actually supplies, there are things that really has gotten to them that they've just been in desperation for, and it gives them a chance to survive. And do they also come to the realization that if there was a lifeline to move out of that place, maybe they'd leave with you because they realize there's nothing left there? How does that work?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, the response is almost the same across the board. We get there and people are in shock that it's just some random guy that they've never met before. They have no idea who I am. I own a small welding and fabrication shop in town. Like, the only people that know me are people who need my service. So, for somebody they don't know to just show up, in a flannel and with a chainsaw, like, a lot of people are in shock that just everyday citizens are the ones that are coming to their immediate assistance. But we've had a few people whose homes were fine, and they were able to get power back in a few days, that didn't want to leave. We've had quite a few people that we've gone to that their houses were, they had trees on the roof and water leaking in, and we had to tell them, like, we have to get you out of here. Like, we got to get you to a camp. We got to get you somewhere, to the food banks. We got to get you help. Really, I think the biggest thing is most people have been in shock and in awe that just local community is coming together to help. It's not the government that's helping people. Not on the immediate. They've come in and they're stepping in and they're filling in where they're needed, but they weren't the first to respond.
While this is so sad, it is just so uplifting, because the best of America are just everyday Americans like Ty and people who participate to help strangers, people they know nothing about. They just know one thing: they're in need and they're desperate for someone to come to them for them to survive. And it's just so wonderful to have a real face, someone who's actually there in the trenches that makes a difference in the most innocuous of ways in the lives of people every day who continue to suffer. He just said there are people who still have not been able to, they're still in these places, they've not been able to leave. Just think about that. That's incredible. And we'll be back. Ty, you're surrounded by death, wild animals, the stench of death, people suffering. How is it that you, in your own mental health, how do you cope? Are you just in such a zone that you refuse to come out of it because you realize if you do, what you will face is so overwhelming? So you just got to keep going because lives are dependent on you.
Well, first off, I'm a Christian. I believe in God. I believe that, we have a creator in heaven, and, be strong and courageous is one of the greatest things that I've taken from the Bible. It's stated over and over and over again. And quite frankly, I don't have a choice. I believe that, I never thought that this was something that I would have to do or ever be a part of. But whenever it happened, it was almost like I heard it plain as day: be strong and courageous, for the Lord your God is with you. And that's my motivation, is I know that people need help. I know that I'm able-bodied and I'm capable of giving help, and it's my duty to help. Quite frankly, my business got wiped out. I was one of the affected as well. But my house is okay. Everybody else's houses ain't. I got to go help those people.
But the good Lord had a new business for you. So your business wasn't necessarily wiped out. He just had a new plan for you, and you'll be blessed. Believe me, you'll be so blessed from this. What do you think are the biggest challenges, Ty, that communities face during the rebuilding process after hurricanes? If you consider there is a rebuilding process.
Yeah, there certainly will be. A lot of this land, that got pushed away, in the whole spectrum of things, not a lot of property was completely destroyed. I mean, that may sound insensitive. There's a lot of devastation. Don't get me wrong, but where these homes were wiped off their foundations, most of the foundations still exist. They can be concrete can be poured out, taken away, and new construction can go back in. But this is something that I firmly believe it's going to be a 10-year process at least. There's thousands upon thousands of people who are displaced from their homes. Mountainsides washed away. That's going to take a while to get roads back. It's going to take a while to get infrastructure back, power poles, lines, septic, all that stuff. It's going to be a while. But, really the building back, I think, is going to, it's going to be a long process. And, I just pray that everybody who is affected has some way out. And I'm doing my part as best as I can to help find people temporary housing, in the midst of this.
What about the people that are unaccounted for and their families, Ty?
Say that one more time.
What about the families unaccounted for, cannot be found?
Unaccounted for?
Yeah.
Man, it's sad. We've seen a lot of devastation. We've seen, bodies. We've seen families that didn't make it. There's been a lot of refrigeration units filled. I don't know what's going to happen with whatever property that they had, or anything for that matter. But any of their remaining relatives, I'm sure are heartbroken. The community is definitely heartbroken. But I mean, I don't know what else to say on that.
We see your business. What about other local businesses contributing to the recovery, and just everyday people just contributing what they can?
Yes, sir. It surprised me so much to see right off the bat. It's not these, there's quite a few multi-million-dollar corporations here in the area. They're not the ones that are helping. It's grassroots people like myself, Benton Roofing, L&S Marine Services. Every grading company that I've seen spent 3 weeks for free out just helping people. This is our community. This is where we live at. If we don't build it back and we don't get it back, we ourselves are going to be, wiped out. We have to get this place back up and running. Otherwise, we're going to have to find something else to do with our lives.
Let me interrupt you a minute. From your perspective and what you've seen, and it's been well over a month, what resources are most needed by the affected communities right now? And how can people from outside these areas offer meaningful support?
Don't send water. There is plenty. There is, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of gallons of water. People need clothes. They need warm clothes, primarily thermal type stuff. For all these people who are displaced from their homes, if the homes don't exist, they ain't got power. So there's a lot of temporary tents and housing that's being set up. People need a way to stay warm more than anything. The community's done a really good job of setting up, food, water, shelter, but everybody's lost all their personal belongings. Things like that are, in my opinion, the most needed.
What about the sanitation, the parasites?
Sanitation's really well cared for. That was probably the second week after the hurricane. There started, the rest area on I-26 between Hendersonville and Asheville. It's turned into a massive, shower facility. They've got probably 70 or 80 showers out there, places where people can come and just freshen up, get clean, brush their teeth, anything of the sort. And that's not the only one. I know of 2 others in the Asheville area. I would say that don't discount it, but it's pretty well cared for.
Ty, stay there. We're going to come back with you much more. I'm Armstrong Williams. Don't go away.
It is easier to build up strong children than to try and repair broken men.
The streets are plagued with crime, violence, there's a lot of poverty, and it's all a result of lack of education that's happening in our schools. So it really is a crisis.
We come from very different political perspectives, but we've come to the same conclusion, and that is there is a crisis in the classroom. Children are being deprived of quality of life because they're being deprived of a good education. We must solve this problem. It's incumbent upon all of us to join hands together to get this done.
We can't afford to wait one more day before we address these issues, because every day we lose another child.
Let's stop the politicking. Let's stop the games. Let's really do something to give these kids a real chance at life and being a part of that American dream.
We need accountability for funding. Many of the districts where you're seeing very low test scores, students graduating with very low literacy and math comprehension rates, they are receiving a lot of funding. So where is the money going where our kids aren't being adequately educated?
If you believe every child is deserving of a quality education, please go to educationjusticefoundation.com. Now, Ty, I can tell even after so much time, this is still a very emotional issue for you. And I can tell you're still in a state of shock, because you have to ask yourself sometimes, is this America? Is this a third world country? Is this real? Is this really happening? But talk about the Ty Townsend before this and the Ty Townsend now. What has changed for you?
My desire to help people directly has changed. Beforehand, I've always known that I wanted to help people in some form or another. So I started a welding business. It's something that doesn't really exist in my area. There's a couple of large industrial shops, but there's no local hometown shops. So everybody who, Farmer John, who's, breaking implements or whatever, he needs somewhere to get it fixed. He doesn't want to go to the dealer and spend, X amount of dollars. He wants to save and get his machines back up and running and start growing food for the community. So, that was my main focus whenever I started the business, was how can I fill that need? Now I've moved towards, not just trying to help specific industries, small hometown families and businesses who need, the service that I provide. But now, how can I directly impact someone's life? Whereas before it was just, how can I fill, a need to, maybe move business forward? Now it's, how can I fill a need to move life forward?
Talk about the moment when you realized this would be life-changing for you, and what can others learn? Because listen, Ty, these storms are not going to stop. They will continue to come. What is it from being in the eye of that storm, seeing death, seeing animals traumatized, seeing people displaced, seeing that you cannot depend on your government for the first few days, you can only depend on yourself? What lessons can you share with others?
Make friends with your neighbors. I don't care if you've got a beef with your neighbor for the last 3 years, you better squash it, because that person in a time of disaster, they're going to be a great resource for you. They're going to lean on you. You're going to lean on them. It's a cliche thing, but life's too short. Don't hold grudges. Make friends, lots of them, real friends. Don't just make a friend because they have something to offer you. Make a friend because it's the right thing to do. Being kind costs you nothing.
If you were to, people, we always say, we're here today talking about all the sadness and the just all the disaster that you see every day. But I can tell without any question that you're a man of faith. What about the miracles, the blessings that you saw in this storm? Just a simple thing that reinforced your faith to make you believe that, even though our government may not be here, and we may be lacking and suffering so much, I still know I'm reinforced that there's a God somewhere.
Oh, buddy, I got the greatest one. So I get a phone call a couple of days into this, and there's a school down in Lake Lure Classical Academy. Sorry, I just got interrupted. But anyways, there's a school down in Lake Lure. I get a phone call that says, "Hey, if we can get water back, we can get school back in, we can get parents back to work. You know, we can do this." The next morning, a 53-foot tractor trailer of water shows up at my shop, and I don't have a single clue where it came from. God's timing. That was on time. I delivered over 50% of that tractor trailer to this school. They were back in school the next day.
Wow. You know what? We need that light, brother. You got to continue to let that light shine because people can find their way. We're going to come back with some final thoughts with Ty Townsend. I'm Armstrong Williams. There's still hope for tomorrow. Don't go away.
As a home buyer, you need a lender who cares about your home ownership dreams. United Security Financial has been helping families secure their dream homes for 30 years. We're a national fair practice lender that provides affordable mortgages and low down payment programs to eligible home buyers. To learn how United Security Financial can help you secure your dream home, call 1-800-373-4186.
The tractor trailer showed up out of nowhere. Man, what so miraculous. You know, we have to get to a point, though, Ty, where people have to realize the storms are always going to win. And water comes down, doesn't go up. When do we come to the realization that there's just some places we just need to abandon, not even to try to rebuild again, but move on to elsewhere?
I agree with that. You know, I think that this was a great realization for a lot of people. You know, the area that we live in is beautiful, but it's maybe not the wisest decision to build your house directly on a river. You know, in the Bible, it says that, you know, as Christ is the solid foundation, you should build your house on a solid foundation, not on sinking sand. You know, I believe that that should be applied to real life. I don't think that necessarily that we should rebuild right next to the river. I don't think that we should rebuild in the pathway of where water could go. You know, we should be, you know, a few hundred yards, if not more, away from that. And I think that's going to affect, you know, people substantially because there's going to be a lot of stubborn people who want to be on the river, you know. And not only that, but just a lot of this was, you know, grandfathered in land, you know, people's families passed it down to them. They want to be back on it. But, you know, the tough realization is, you know, this isn't the last rainstorm we're going to get in Western North Carolina. I assure you of that. It may have taken 100 years for us to get one like this. I'm sure we'll get another one.
You know, of all the things that we may complain about and feel we don't have, when you listen to Ty Townsend, he just doesn't speak for himself. He speaks for all the lives that he has impacted and all the other lives that others have impacted. You know, listen, these are our real heroes, people on the front line when people are in need. This is the best government. Communities helping each other, supporting each other. But one of the most important things he said, get rid of the anger, the pettiness, get to know your neighbor, because you never know when your neighbor is going to become your saint in the heat of the night. Thank you for joining us, Ty, and you will be in our prayers. I'm Armstrong Williams.